Hello and a very warm good morning. You're tuned into Market Cafe. I'm Ankita Saxena and with me Shishti Sharma. In the next half an hour, we'll take you through all of that happened on the global front, the markets, the geopolitics and what is likely to move the markets back home. So let's get started with how the Wall Street shaped up yesterday. Well, another day where Wall Street closed the day in the green, though very marginal moves coming in. But we did see Dow Jones Industrial Average that was trading up 0.2%. S&P 500 and Nasdaq continue their winning streak. In fact, they hit fresh record high, yet again, led by chips and AI stocks. So the optimism on AI and semiconductors and chip makers, extend the rally on Nasdaq as well. In fact, even the earnings season is in full swing, and there's a lot of optimism around the earnings season. 85% of the S&P 500 companies have reported better than expected results, and on the back of that, S&P 500 and Nasdaq both have been hitting record high. Now, remember, Nvidia-led semiconductor rally has been lifted, the entire tech sentiment, and on the back of that, we do see tech stocks that are doing very well. But we do have the geopolitics that has been a bit of a dampener, where Trump is saying that the Iran ceasefire is now on life support, and he's rejected Tehran's proposal, and he said on Truth Social that Iran's response is totally unacceptable, and that really sent the oil prices higher. But more on that from Shishti.
Well, absolutely. There's been no cooling off when it comes to the crude oil prices. And even as of now, Brent crude futures is trading above that $105 per barrel mark. But more surprising move were actually in the precious metal side, and especially the move in silver, because safe haven demand seems to be coming back. And look at the move. It's almost a 1% jump coming in on gold prices. Just yesterday, we were talking that gold is hovering around that $4,700 per ounce mark, and now it is very close to that $4,800 per ounce mark. So good and smart move on the gold front. But add to that is the silver prices. A more than 6% jump is what we have witnessed just yesterday, and even as of now, it's almost a 1.5% jump on the silver commodity. So yes, the oil is on the boil, but it is seen to be seeing a bit of a breather close to that $105 per barrel mark, because reports were suggesting that the supply constraints are indeed there, and the OPEC plus production was at a 2 decades low, and that is something that is keeping the oil prices higher. And add to that is the uncertainty around what happens between US as well as Iran. But Ankita, what's up with the Asian markets?
Well, Asian markets are not up, Shrishti. In fact, they're trading in the red, and on the back of that news on geopolitics and the reaction that Trump has had on Iran, we do see flat moves coming in, but we have Asian markets that there are flip-flopping between the red and the green. At least Nikkei, that's turned very, very flat, has now turned green. In the morning, it opened up in the red. Shanghai also trading with cuts of 5 odd points, so very flat moves coming in there as well. But S&P SX 200 is trading down almost 1%. We have Hang Seng, that is the only one that is seeing a shade of green, with the gains of 0.5% coming in there. So really, it's a mixed day of trade coming in. But look at the start for Nifty. GIFT Nifty is implying a gap down start of more than 200 points. So as far as Indian markets are concerned, we are expecting a negative start to the day yet again.
All right, so that's the take coming in from the Asian market. But let's move on and let's take stock of some of the big global stories that we are tracking at this hour. And first up is Trump has invited some of the America's biggest CEOs, including Elon Musk, Tim Cook and Larry Fink, to join his upcoming China trip for talks with Xi Jinping. Now, the summit is expected to focus on trade, AI, export controls, Taiwan and Iran conflict amid rising tensions between Washington and Beijing. Now, Trump is also expected to push for fresh business deals and investment commitments during the trip.
And Trump says that the fragile ceasefire between the US and Iran is now on life support after Tehran sent what he called an unacceptable counter-proposal to Washington. Speaking at the Oval Office, Trump described the month-old truce as unbelievably weak, warning that the tensions remain dangerously high despite the ongoing diplomatic efforts. The ceasefire has been repeatedly tested by clashes in the Strait of Hormuz, attacks on vessels, and military exchanges involving Iran, the US, and the regional allies. And the US President Donald Trump, while addressing the press, said that the ceasefire is quite fragile and Iranian military is defeated. Let's take a look.
It was just unacceptable. A lot of people said, well, does he have a plan? Yeah, of course they do have the best plan ever. I mean, Iran has been defeated militarily, totally. They have a little left. They probably built up during this period of time. We'll knock that out in about a day. But I have a plan. You know what it is? A very simple plan. I don't know why you don't say it like it is. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They're very dangerous. They're very volatile. It's a terrible thing that's happened over there. They've killed 42,000 people in the last 2 months. 42,000. At least that's what we know of. 42,000 people. They killed numerous people over the last week, but they killed 42,000 people a month and a half ago.
All right, and let's talk about what's happening with the oil. And Saudi Aramco CEO Amin Nasser has warned that global oil markets may not normalize until 2027 if disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz continue beyond mid-June. Now, Nasser says that the world is losing nearly 100 million barrels of oil supply every week. The strait remains blocked, calling it the biggest energy supply shock ever. Only 2 to 5 ships are currently transiting Hormuz daily, compared with about 40 vessels before the conflict. That is indeed severely disrupting the tanker routes and global fuel inventories. Now, Aramco is ramping up alternative pipeline capacity, but supply chains remain under intense strain as oil, gasoline and jet fuel stocks rapidly decline.
And post-PM Modi's appeal of austerity measures for fuel, gold and foreign travel, PM Modi has repeated his appeal once again while speaking in Vadodara. Let's listen in.
जब तक हालात सामान्य न हो, हम सोने की खरीद को टाले, गोल्ड की जरूरत नहीं है। ये विदेश में वेडिंग इनका फैशन खूब बढ़ रहा है, लेकिन इस पर भी बहुत विदेशी मुद्रा खर्च होती है और जरूरी है कि भारत में ही अपनी वैकेशन मनाएं। और वेडिंग के लिए भी मैं नहीं मानता हूं कि भारत से अधिक कोई अच्छी पवित्र जगह हो सकती है हमारे लिए। मेरी देश के हर नागरिक से अपील है, जहां संभव हो पेट्रोल डीजल का उपयोग कम करें, मेट्रो का उपयोग करें, इलेक्ट्रिक बस और पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट का अधिक इस्तेमाल करें, कार पुलिंग को बढ़ावा दें। टेक्नोलॉजी की मदद भी हमारे लिए बहुत फायदेमंद होगी। ये जरूरी है कि सरकारी और प्राइवेट दोनों ही दफ्तरों में वर्चुअल मीटिंग्स और वर्क फ्रॉम होम को प्राथमिकता दी जाए। मैं कुछ स्कूलों से भी आग्रह करूंगा कि कुछ समय के लिए ऑनलाइन क्लासेज की व्यवस्था पर काम करें।
Listening to how India Inc. react to PM Modi's appeal.
See, this is a issue that's caused by things beyond our control. You know, something that happened in Middle East, etc. We have managed our economy much better than any other country. Growth is still high. Inflation is under control. But having said that, there is an impact and we need to manage that impact. There's only so much the government can do, and that's the reason why we have to look at what individuals can do, what industry can do, and together we have to try and address this problem.
I think what he's saying is very prudent. I think it's very apt for India right now. I think he knows more than anybody else that India is reliant on fossil fuel imports, and it's a weakness of our economy. And therefore, all that we can do as individuals, as citizens, and as corporate sector to decrease that dependence, we must do that. And I think he is showing us a path that we can do it by working from home, by traveling less. I think those are all very important issues. I think what we also need to do, which is a path that the Honorable Prime Minister has laid out, is how do we transition as quickly as possible towards clean energy, which is all domestic, that gives us energy security, and that takes us away from the issue of importing a lot of fossil fuels.
Imports are high, so I think if there are ways in which it can be reduced, obviously sometimes it's a purchase for special occasions, that one understands, but I think to the extent that we can moderate the usage of gold, I think it's good for the economy, it's good for the country, and I think that's the Prime Minister's request. I think there are more medium-term to long-term measures. Eventually, I think we have to be much more reliant and dependent on sources of fuel which don't lead to outflow of foreign exchange. So, and whether it's energy transition, whether it is solar, whether it's using coal to gas, whether at a later stage nuclear, we have to start exploring these options.
I don't want to ask for, let us say, my LPG prices should be lower, or I understand very well Indian consumer, public, their supply chain should not be disrupted and they should get at the right prices. And if the consumer sentiments are good, my industry will benefit. At this point of a time, some burden has to be on the shoulders of the industry.
And the OMCs could well be staring at losses of over 1 lakh crore in the first quarter of FY27 as global crude prices have shot up significantly since the beginning of West Asia war in February end. Sources say that the government is reviewing the situation and financial support have been extended at the right time. Prakash is joining us with the details.
Well, the oil marketing companies are facing huge under-recovery on the sale of petrol, diesel and LPG due to high crude oil prices in the international market. Sources suggest that the situation is being reviewed with all stakeholders. In fact, the actual losses are likely to cross rupees 1 lakh crore in the first quarter of the current financial year, whereas the overall under-recovery may cross rupees 2 lakh crore in the first quarter of the current financial year. Very significant development coming in. Sources suggest that the issue is being discussed with all stakeholders. In fact, the Finance Ministry and the Oil Ministry have submitted their notes to the Prime Minister's office last week. Various factors have been taken into account. In fact, sources suggest that the possibility of a petrol diesel price hike cannot be ruled out. However, any decision will be taken keeping consumers' interest in mind. Along with that, the government sources are also indicating that the government has provided compensation to all marketing companies for their previous losses, especially on domestic LPG. In fact, the government had provided rupees 30,000 crore to cover their previous losses. This time around, government may provide much higher amount to compensate them as they are facing huge under-recovery at this point in time. So the government has not ruled out possibility of a petrol diesel price hike, but any decision will be taken keeping consumers' interest in mind. Sources also indicate that situation is being reviewed and financial support will be provided to all marketing companies at the appropriate time.
All right, thank you so much, Prakash, for getting us all those details. But a day after PM Modi appealed to the citizens to avoid buying gold for at least a year, ET Now team did a mood check at Mumbai's Zaveri Bazaar. Anurag Shah gets us this report.
After Prime Minister Narendra Modi's appeal not to buy gold for next 1 year, there are reactions from all quarter, but what is the ground pulse, what jewelers are saying and customers are saying. So right now I am in Zaveri Bazaar, India's oldest and biggest jewelry market in Mumbai. So we'll try to know reaction from jewelers and their customers, what actually they feel about the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's appeal.
At present, as it is, we are reeling under 40 to 50% sales downtrend, and with this PM request, the whole trade will take a very big hit, and basically the karigars will be the most affected.
Karigars will be most affected. There are few reports that jewelry associations is seeking time to meet PMO officials. So what will be your plea going ahead? What you are requesting Prime Minister's office?
We are in the process of making an Apex Association Pan-India, and we will be seeking an appointment from the PM Sir ASAP. And the second thing is that we will make an amicable solution with the national interest in sight, and the trade also doesn't take a hit. We'll come out with something which will be better off with the jewelers and the national interest also.
Okay. And do you think how long this situation will persist? How long people will not buy gold on the appeal of Prime Minister?
With the request of PM, we will also take this in mind and instruct our customers to take the bare minimum, which is required if a marriage is taking place in the house. And we will try to accommodate our customers with the least amount of gold.
What will be your thought on this? Will you support this?
Yes, definitely. मतलब अगर ज़रूरत है तो ही लीजिए, वरना 1 ईयर वो बोल रहे हैं, तो लग रहा है सपोर्ट करना चाहिए.
लेकिन अगर लेडीज की बात करें तो उनको गोल्ड से काफी लगाव होता है. अक्षय तृतीया पे
थोड़ा कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं ना.
पहले की जैसे लोग अभी गोल्ड ले भी नहीं पा रहे हैं, जैसे प्राइसेस हाइक हुए हैं तो लेडीज़ों को वैसे भी अपना शौक थोड़ा कंट्रोल में लाना ही पड़ा है, तो माइट एज वेल.
बट जैसा कि हम देखते हैं कि हमेशा दिवाली हो, अक्षय तृतीया हो, वहाँ पर महिलाओं के द्वारा गोल्ड खरीदा जाता है और पिछले साल के मुकाबले इस बार रेट बढ़े हुए हैं. तो इस अपील से आपको क्या लगता है कि अक्रॉस द बोर्ड जिनकी शादियों वगैरह में भी लोग गोल्ड नहीं खरीदेंगे?
सी इट्स एन अपील, इट्स नॉट अ कंपल्शन. ही इज ओनली आस्किंग यू टू बी माइंडफुल. ऐसे थोड़ी बोला है कि दुकान पे ताले लगा दो. ऑफ कोर्स ज़रूरी है, आपके घर में शादी आप लेने ही वाले हो, बट द पॉइंट इज बी माइंडफुल कि अगर ज़रूरत है, ज़रूरी ही है लेना तो लो. यू कैन ऑलवेज बैलेंस.
All right, with that, it's time for a quick breather. Don't go anywhere. After the break, we'll get you more updates on the market. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're tuned into Market Cafe. We're taking you through all the cues you need to watch out for before the start of Dalal Street today. And for that, now Karan is joining us with all the stocks that will be in focus in today's trading session. Karan, take it away.
Let's start off with the Q4 earnings of IHCL. The company has reported a 14% year-on-year growth across revenue, EBITDA and PAT, with a slight contraction in the EBITDA margins. Occupancy rates stood at 78%, which was up 100 basis points on a year-on-year basis. Management remains cautiously optimistic about the domestic travel in FY27 on a relatively softer base of FY26. Followed by JSW Energy, while the revenue is up 41% at 4,400 crores, the EBITDA has surged by more than 86% at 2,200 crores. Moreover, there is a significant expansion in the EBITDA margins on a year-on-year basis. The company added 2.6 gigawatt of capacity in FY26, and the company is looking at a 30 gigawatt of generation capacity by FY30 with an annual growth rate of 20%. Followed by Saturn Creditcare, the net interest income was up 6% at 343 crores, and the AUM increased by 18% at 15,000 crores year-on-year. Moreover, the return on assets came in at 4.7% in Q4 versus 0.8% same time last year. Followed by Heritage Foods, the company has reported a weak set of numbers. While the EBITDA is down 35% at 52 crores, the profit declined by 36%. On that note, the management of the company has said that FY26 witnessed one of the toughest operating environments for the dairy industry in recent years, marked by severe milk shortages, elevated procurement inflation and weak flush season. Despite these challenges, the company has delivered a resilient revenue growth. And finally, JBM Auto is in focus. While the EBITDA was up 20% at 237 crores, the raw material cost has increased marginally by 2.6%. Moreover, the EBITDA margins stood at a 5-quarter high level.
All right, thank you so much, Karan, for getting us all those details. But that's not it. There are more stocks to watch out in today's trading session. Let me take it across to Ashesha for that list. Ashesha.
Well, yes, morning. First up, let's talk about Orient Pro Solutions, and this counter has reported a weak set of numbers for the fourth quarter. Revenue has seen an uptick of 5.7% on a year-on-year basis, but when we look at the margins, they've contracted to 19.3% versus 20% that the company had reported same time last year. Raw material cost has declined, but employee benefit cost has risen by about 34% on a year-on-year basis, and that weighed heavy on company's numbers this time around. So weak set of numbers that have come in from Orient Pro Solutions. JB Chemicals, meanwhile, again a weak set where revenue has declined by about 5% on a year-on-year basis. We have margins which have come in at 22.2%. This is again a contraction on a year-on-year basis. India business saw growth of about 2% YOY, but we had international business that has reported a degrowth of as much as 9% on a year-on-year basis. So this is where the weakness has come in from. So keep an eye out on this counter. JB Chemicals, weak set of numbers. Nuvama Wealth, Very strong set of numbers, much ahead of what the street was working with. Revenue up 15%. We have margins which have come in at about 50%, and client assets grew by about 7% on a year-on-year basis. But it's a big beat across all parameters that Nuvama Wealth has reported for the fourth quarter. Sirma SGS numbers are in line, but remember, company has missed guidance that it had given for the fourth quarter. So it has missed guidance by as much as 8%. Guidance for fourth quarter revenue stood at 1600 crores and it has come in at about 1465 odd crores. So it's a miss when we compare it to company's own guidance for the fourth quarter. Paradeep Phosphates, meanwhile, has reported in-line set of numbers where revenue has seen an uptick of about 12% on a year-on-year basis, but cost of raw material that has risen from 69% in the previous quarter to 72%. So this is a bit of a concern, but otherwise in line to good set of numbers is what this counter has reported for the fourth quarter.
All right, Shesha, thank you so much for getting us all the stocks we need to watch out for. Both Karan and Shesha, thank you. But let's go across and take a look at the AMFI data for the month of April. The SIP inflow saw a decline as compared to the month of March. Total AUM saw a surge from nearly 74 lakh crores to nearly 82 lakh crore rupees. Net equity inflows saw a decline. Ankur is now joining us with the fine print of the AMFI data. Let's take a look.
Yes, SIP continues to be above 31,000 crore mark for the month of April, and this, if you compare with the month of March, there is some moderation compared to 32,000 crore level. But ever since the West Asia crisis broke, even after that, there is not much moderation in terms of the number, and in last 3 months, the uptick has been there if you compare with the month of February as well, and even in the month of January, the data said it was above 31,000 crore mark. So even after the West Asia crisis, investors are holding up and continuing to invest in SIPs. Overall, if you see the net equity inflows, there is some moderation compared to last month. The figure is close to 38,000 crore, which was 40,000 crore earlier, but there is strong traction which continues in small cap and mid cap, but there is some moderation which is seen in large cap. But if you see from the lens of flexi cap funds, there is a strong traction compared to last month. Overall, the liquid fund inflow has also been very strong at 1.65 lakh crore compared to 1.35 lakh crore month on month, and even the moderation, which if you consider overall basis, the total AUM inflow has remained at 81.92 lakh crore, which was 73.73 lakh crore last month.
All right, thank you so much for that, Ankur. But with that, it's time to wind down on this edition of Market Cafe. I'll take your leave. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't go anywhere. The market is coming up next.